Two. All right, hello everyone. My name is Emmanuel Okaradia, and I am a practice management advisor at Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, where we help lawyers with practice management services and mental health services. And today we have a special treat, as we'll be talking about the pandemic and how it's caused firms of different sizes to strategize to keep clients coming in and to keep members feeling motivated and keeping track of the relevant metrics. So Margaret Burke and Casey Blake of Calibri Law Support Solutions will share insights around the metrics and the marketing techniques that matter to firms today. Practice group profitability, along with origination, utilization, and goal management are a few of the KPIs that they'll discuss, and we'll share how the firms can best leverage these metrics. Business development and marketing have been constant in this ever-changing environment, and they'll share with us ways to see relationship cultivation opportunities in everyday activities, and we'll share quick tips along with questions to ask yourself as you head into this fall season. Q&A will be at the end, but if you have questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. All right, so without further ado, welcome Casey and Margaret.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. It's great to be here. I'm Casey Blake. I'm the Director of Client Success for Kolibri, and Margaret Burke, my colleague, is the Managing Director. And as Emmanuel said, thank you for that great overview. We're going to be talking about marketing and metrics and what matters to law firms. And it's certainly been a different 18 months, and it's certainly not over. And things that have changed maybe a change that is forever. So what we're going to talk about today are some metrics that matter to your firms as it relates to KPIs and some key considerations, as well as some business development and marketing ideas. And what I'll just share is you can see us, but here we are again, our professional headshots of Margaret and I. And what clients go to Margaret for are strategic oversight, some firm growth opportunity ideas, and team culture building. And so much more also, by the way, but those are a few key things that Margaret really helps our clients with. And for me, they're looking for creative brainstorming, marketing techniques, and some brand enhancement activity ideas. So we're really excited to chat with you today about what we can help with. And I'll give a little background too on Calibri Law Support Solutions. We provide services to law firms in the areas of firm management, financial management, operations management, human capital management, and marketing and sales management. So what I'll do now is I'll kick it over to my colleague, Margaret, who's going to talk about this metrics, KPIs, and key concepts.
Excellent. Thanks, Casey. That was a mouthful. You did really well getting all those tongue twisters out. So I'm really happy to be here today. And as I was preparing, I recognize that not every metric, as I'll call it, applies to everyone in the way that I'll present it. And the things that I will know do apply to all firms, regardless of the size. We'll all have different ways of handling this. And I think the key is to keep it simple. And a lot of these items that I have listed, we all know about them, and they're really important. And something else that we also know about is the fact that law firms are a business. So, it's paying mortgages, salaries, and as such, it's really important to track certain things. Many of the folks here are tracking, and that's great. I'm sure quite a few are not, and that's, I hope to shed some light on things today. So I'm going to jump right in to WIP and AR. And I put these two items first because they significantly impact cash flow. And, a few tips on WIP I'll jump into is, a lot of times attorneys we'll try to figure out, how do I use this report? We get the report, now what do I do? And I think, again, to keep it simple, starting by having an expected range that a matter should take to finish, knowing there's exceptions, helps, because if you have an expected range on a particular type of matter, days, months, whatever it may be, when you look at that WIP report, you can quickly start to identify when matters are running over. And quite often matters are running over because of really one of three reasons. It could be utilization. The person working on it is just too extended to get through it. It could be a delay on your firm's part, or it could be the client not sending information. Looking at a WIP report and identifying that something is delaying a matter is really important because it helps you push it to the finish line and it directly impacts client satisfaction. And as we know, once you finish your WIP, you can bill it and get paid. In addition, with AR, this is one of those topics that I don't think anyone likes to address AR, accounts receivable. There might be a few of us that do, but probably not many. And I think that is one of the most important things that every attorney and law firm should keep an eye on is AR. And then the question is, what do you do with that? So with AR, many of us know that if it's between a certain range, the 1 in 30s, don't worry too much. Once it hits that 30 plus, there is a red flag, and having a process in place to address it in a way that your clients are accustomed to you addressing things. So for example, it's okay to call a client if a bill's overdue. They know that they have this invoice, and if you're right around the 30-day mark, they're likely still incredibly happy with the work you did for them, and they know you should get paid, and they respect you as a business person for following up. Knowing that attorneys are incredibly busy people, this is something you can very easily have someone else do for you. And this is an area where I've had a lot of conversations about the pros and cons of that, and really just having a protocol in place. It could be a blanket email coming from your quote accounting department, even if you don't have one. You can set up an email, nice follow-up, and then a protocol where 10 days later, someone in your office that is good with people, you can outsource this if you don't have that resource, calls the person, and knowing that the next step is if there's anything that is brought up at all that you need to know, they immediately come to you. That will help get you out of that process and help you collect cash. And once you start following up on bills, people expect it, and really, I promise they do respect it. And if there is a problem and a reason they're not paying, you would want to know it. So I think AR and WIP are really critical. The next item I have here in my notes, and it's not on the slide, actually it's the last bullet, but I'll jump to it now, is timely billing. As part of this, I'm saying things that you all know. Timely billing is critical. If you have a vacation coming up, or anyone in your group that has to enter time has a vacation, time needs to be in before vacation and planning ahead so that clients know they're getting billed promptly. They appreciate that. And again, they're still really happy with your service when they get that bill, and that goes a long way. The next items I'm going to jump into, month-end financials. I think most of us are familiar with a P&L and balance sheet and sometimes wonder why we need those. I do think it's a really good practice as you run your firm to have a month-end close. In addition to the close, which I'm sure you have, producing those reports, they come in handy because over time you will see trends and you might be able to project for cash flow needs. Summer may be slow, Christmas, December, January. If you don't track it, you don't know it. And so closing the books is really important. And that could be a cash basis, or a lot of law firms use that modified basis, whatever works for you. This again is something that a lot of firms do outsource, so you don't need to spend your time on it. Additional reasons for closing your books is you may have an opportunity with potential acquisition, a merger. And if you don't have a good set of books ready to go, you might lose that opportunity. And it takes a lot less time to update ongoing than to recreate something. And then the other area that I think is important for financials is sometimes we all need to go get a loan. There might be a line of credit need. And if you have financials, you can easily start that process without too much work on your end. And keep it simple. And then as part of financials, I think, the IOLTA, the month-end close, I'm sure everyone here has a process that you're following. And as the attorney, every attorney involved in managing matters, you want to take a look at that every month and almost like a sign off for best practices, so that if there is a problem, you address it, or if a problem comes up in the future, it shows that you have a process in place and that you are looking at your IOLTA account. Next is, and I hope I'm not talking too fast, I'm being aware of the time. So utilization. So that's an area where I think a lot of folks view it for only big firms, and it's actually can apply to any firm from 3 to 30 attorneys. And what it does is it helps gauge when attorneys have too much on their plate, which can result in mistakes, unnecessary stress, or uneven work distribution. And in order to have utilization tracking, it is important to have an understanding of what you do expect of yourself and your attorneys at the firm. And whatever that number is, just track it and look at it. And over time, you may see a pattern, and it will also help when you're making hiring decisions. If you start to see that everyone's really busy, that's great news. You may need to hire. And it will help you feel comfortable with that decision. Hiring is a big move, and sometimes decisions are made without any numbers behind it. And this will help you not have that situation at your firm. And then another area that it's almost up there with the AR is the time tracking. I don't think any attorney enjoys it. And it might be one of the least favorite things that many of you are asked to do, or you don't do, but you may consider doing it. The benefits of tracking time, even if you don't bill hourly, if you bill contingent or you bill flat, is that you, one, can see utilization. Two, it's not unusual for a client to come back after a flat fee matter and question the invoice. And if you can show the time put into it, it is really helpful. And it also helps, again, making decisions. If you're not tracking your time, you really don't. It's hard to know why people can't keep up with the matters that are being given, and it's hard to know if you should hire. There's many open questions if you're not tracking your time. So I ask that you consider that. And there's some amazing programs that are cloud-based that make it easy and, dare I say, a little bit fun. They have apps and other things you can, sit on the train and enter your time. And then I'll jump into some other metrics that you may consider that I think are really important. And Casey's going to touch on some of these in a moment. Where is your business coming from? It's interesting if you do track it, and many of you probably do. And if you're not, please consider it's actually somewhat enjoyable to see where your business is coming from. You may be surprised. Your top revenue sources. That's another thing that you think but if you're not tracking it, it may not be exactly what you think. So where is your revenue coming from? Who's sending you business? The amount of time you're spending on a matter. Again, that gets into the time tracking. You can flag potential inefficiencies if things are taking too long. And then, if you're part of a firm with different practice areas, it is great to see metrics related to each individual practice area. And this goes back to hiring decisions. It frankly relates to compensation decisions. So tracking practice areas is really helpful. And then the old tracking origination. That's key for many reasons. And it is nice to know who's bringing in what, and it can impact decisions in the future. And then I'd like to leave my part of the presentation and give Casey a chance to speak, is that relationship development. And I'm going to let Casey take it from here because she has so much to share with you. And I think the metrics that I mentioned really nicely relate to business development and outreach and where you focus your attention. So Casey, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Margaret. Yeah, that's
Sure.
Everything you said is so true and so important. And I'm happy to add my business development and marketing side to it as well. So I have a couple mantras for the day, but I'll say the first one is that business development and marketing can be digestible, manageable, and sustainable. And it should be, because business development and marketing, it comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's not one size fits all. So what one person may choose to spend their time on for marketing and business development activities, it may differ from yours, and what you have available for time and resources may look different, and that's completely fine. So what I want to offer today is that this concept of the billable hour and business development being truly on the same team. And for starters, we acknowledge that the billable hour is very important, regardless of the size of your firm. You're looking at where you're billing, you're looking at the time being spent, as Margaret said, that tracking of all of that. But what I want to really emphasize is that some of the things that you're already doing are business development activities. So something that is billable actually can also be considered business development. And what I really want to emphasize here is this image of the shaking hands, is that every interaction can be seen as a business development opportunity. And that is really you being a brand ambassador. Anytime You're answering a client question, you're picking up the phone, you're sending an email, you're connecting people together. That's an everyday interaction that is actually furthering your personal brand or the brand of your firm. And you're doing that simply by being yourself. You're connecting people, or you're being a resource, you're being a thought leader. And that comes again in many shapes and sizes. So I just want to really emphasize that some of the things that you may be doing every single day really can be seen as that opportunity and as a brand enhancement tool. And a couple things too that I'll scoot into next is this digestible business development bites. And why I like to talk about this is I think sometimes the concept of business development and or marketing can feel a bit overwhelming. I have to do what? I have to write what? I have to go to how many events? And honestly, I think we can start small. We can start with everyday things that you could honestly get going with today. And I'll tell you why through these little bites. So one thing I'd encourage people to do every day is to hop onto LinkedIn for 15 minutes. And why I think that's helpful is you can scroll through the feed, and as you get more comfortable, you'll start liking and sharing things or commenting on things that are relevant to you and your practice. And I think it's a great place because it is meant to be completely business oriented. So what people are putting on there pertains to their business needs. So by you being an involved person on that platform, you're furthering your brand. And I'm saying 15 minutes a day, set a timer if you want, or put a calendar hold every day from 9 to 9:15 just on LinkedIn. And I really believe that a little goes a long way, and it will become habit. And it's a good habit to be checking in on that network. Another thing that might be helpful as a digestible bite is taking some of the questions that you may get from your clients and acknowledging that maybe more than one of them have that same question of you, and turning that into something that can have longevity. And what I mean by saying that is, depending on your practice or the size of your firm, you could turn that into a really short content piece, a few paragraphs. Here's a question I've been getting often, and here's how I've been responding to it. And share what your answer is, because you might be preemptively answering a question that a prospect has or a referral source has for you. So kind of repurposing, again, something you're already doing every day and making it have a lasting impact. Another thing is, when you're meeting with a client, asking who their other advisors are, because that is such a natural way to expand your own network in an everyday activity. So who's their CPA, who's their banker, who's their broker? These are people that by having that introduction made, there's a great opportunity there to expand not only your network, but who your client base could be, the people that are listening to you. I think that it's a very natural step for professional services areas to talk to one another. So by expanding your network that way, it's a great opportunity. And the last one I'll say here as a digestible bite is testing out a new networking group. I mean, I know that the friends here at Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, they have an immense calendar of ways for people to connect with each other. There's a bunch of things out there. There's so many networks for attorneys, and it really is possible and plausible to just try one. You don't need to commit by purchasing a membership. You can test one out, do a trial membership, see if it's worth it, because again, what some people prefer to do may not be what you prefer. So if you like going to an event every week, I think that's awesome. Keep doing that. Keep having that interaction. If you prefer an online environment, there's so many opportunities out there, which leads me to leveraging this hybrid environment. So we've been in this world for 18 months now, and so much of it has changed and may not be, as we say, going back to what used to be. But where you can really leverage that is there's probably more opportunity than ever to have comfortable business development opportunities. And I say comfortable with the ability to, I know we like to see each other in 3D, but there's a lot of opportunities to Zoom with people, to have an interactive virtual coffee. You're not needing to drive in and find parking if that feels perhaps overwhelming, and it can, because there's a lot of that going on. And so now we're fortunate with this opportunity to see people and meet people through this hybrid environment of some in person and some virtual. So I think that it really can be helpful, actually. And last on this slide is this concept of cross-solving not cross-selling. And I think the term selling can be really intimidating for any person, even for a salesperson. That word selling might feel uncomfortable or overwhelming. And really, what you're doing every day as an attorney, you're solving problems on behalf of other people, or you're solving problems for your firm or for your key contacts. So if you look at it as a solving opportunity, not a selling opportunity, I really feel that that mindset shift is incredibly helpful. And, you know, if you're a sole practitioner, you could remove the word cross from this and just hear it as solving, not selling, when you're trying to engage with new clients, or use the term cross-solving as it relates to referral sources and other attorneys that you work well with. And as it relates to tracking here, as Margaret mentioned, there is such a benefit to a CRM tool. And that really is, I will say, it does depend on the size of your firm. But for some firms, it is a great thing to use to measure your contacts, your pipeline, and who you're engaging with. But it does depend greatly on, you know, how big your network is and all of that. But it could be a really helpful tool to measure where business is coming in from. And so my other point here, before we just share with you how you can get in touch with us, is just some business development questions to ask yourself. And these are things that, you know, what are your long-term goals? So thinking about your professional needs and wants, and what relationships you currently have in your network, and the return on the investment of those networks. And like I said, you know, joining a trial membership, what networks might be worth it for you? The next question is, what does my online profile say? So make sure that your bio on your website, if you have a website, is up to date. Make sure that your industry pages, if they're applicable on your site, are accurate and that they're current, that your speaking engagements and sponsorships are all very clear. And I say this too across your social platforms as well, not just your website, but your whole online footprint. What is it saying about you? And making sure that it's current, and checking your headshot. Let's make sure it looks like you today, so that people know who they're meeting with. So these are all things that are really important from a marketing and business development standpoint. Where should you focus your time and energy? Everyone is so busy, so you don't want to waste your time, right? I totally agree with that. So really investing your energy in what's going to have a lasting impact and really be the best use of your time. And look at your fellow attorneys, your other colleagues and peers, see what they're up to and where they're investing their time as it relates to marketing. The opportunity to mentor and support an up and coming attorney, or to be mentored, is a great use of time. And also just looking at where you're spending the most time, again, as tracking comes back to the conversation related to business development, what's that yield been of your time? And the last question I encourage you to ask yourself is, what do clients, referral sources, and friends of your firm need from you now? And I'll also flip that and importantly add, what can others do for you? So what can you do for the people in your network, or what can they do for you? What do you need? What's an introduction that you need? Not being afraid to ask for that, and say, you know what, I really need to meet a great CPA. Who's in your network? What might your network be able to bring to you, and vice versa? Those introductions that can be made, and connecting the dots for others. So those are some key questions that I would say you should ask yourself as you kind of, you know, consider your business development efforts. And what I'll do now is I'm happy to flip it back to you, Margaret, to kind of talk about briefly just our approach at Kolibri, how we work with clients on kind of what we've discussed today.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Casey. And I'm actually going to add something that Casey has said to me often, and it actually is interesting how it helps if anyone here, you know, just doesn't like to ask for help. You may not want to approach someone that you think could be a good referral source and make a great introduction. Knowing the person you want to approach, and then really trying to figure out how you can help them, and reaching out and helping them as part of you asking for support, feels a lot easier and better if you're hesitant to reach out. So Casey says that all the time. She says it to our clients. And I wanted to throw that out because, again, I do know the sales part of things can be, you know, not something that people are comfortable spending their time on, but it is so important, and it's frankly enjoyable. You know, you're helping solve problems. So yeah, so the Calibri approach. So, you know, It's interesting. I'd say we're cross solvers. So we solve problems for our clients, and we're available for most needs of a law firm that are non-legal, from everything from managing your financials, your marketing plans, your back office, recruiting, HR. We have a lot of experience in all those areas. And we find often that people are not sure, like, what is the process? So if you have a need and you're interested in seeing if perhaps we can be of support to you, we would start by speaking with you and sharing a little bit more about what we do, learning about what you do and what your needs are. I'll use the term pain point and what we may be able to do to help solve that. And then as part of that, we would then follow up our meeting if it seemed like we could be a resource with some more specific information. At Kolibri, the way we work with our clients is as part of your firm. We become integrated with you and your team. We are ensure that communicating with us is easy and smooth, and we don't bill by the hour. It's an ongoing engagement as if we were part of your firm.
Awesome. And we'll leave it up here, the best way to get in touch with us. We have it here of how to call us or email us or check out our website, and we are on all of these social platforms. So we're excited to have the opportunity.
Thanks, Casey.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much for that engaging presentation. We do have time for questions. So if you guys have questions in the chat, go ahead and drop them there, and we could get started on that portion of our webinar. And just to start us off, one question is, which systems do you use to track the KPIs and the other metrics that are important to the success of the firm?
Sure. So there's a few systems, and I think they all begin with a lot of these begin with a time and billing system. If you have one that I'll throw out that we're very familiar with, and it can be very easy to engage with, is Clio. So Clio can track a lot of different information, and that information you can either do yourself, you can upload it. There's many different programs that you can use for that afterwards. Typically, a lot of law firms will get support from someone on their staff or outsource that, because you may not want to spend your time tracking the information. But it does begin typically with the timing billing, and depending on what you're tracking, there are other softwares out there available. And if you have a specific item that you'd like to track, we're more than happy to just jump on a call and give you some feedback based on our experience related to your specific need.
And so with timing billing, what if a firm is contingent? How would they approach the KPIs that are most relevant?
Yeah, that actually, it's common, actually, and in that case, it is different from an hourly firm where you may not ask for people to record down to a certain minute increment. But a lot of firms that are contingent or flat fee do ask their billable folks to enter the time they spend on a matter into a system. So typically it's billable. That's like a common billable. And then you can also, so you'll have that information because they're entering the billable time working on a particular matter. It's good practice to also ask people to enter what's non-billable. People have different opinions on this. I think usually it's not necessary to enter what those non-billable are, but just enter a number so your hours reach a certain amount every day, be it you took time off, whatever it may be. And then you really get a clear picture of people's workload. And you also get an understanding when you're spending a lot more time on a matter than you expected, and you may adjust your fees related to that flat fee or not.
Got it. That's important. That's important, even if you're not billing hourly, just to have an understanding of how much time you're spending on each matter.
Yeah.
Be important even for the hiring decision.
It really is. And I'll just add one thing. I think that because law firms and attorneys and everyone that works at a law firm, the professional staff, everyone's very busy. So I believe management may be hesitant to add one more thing to the timekeeper's plates. And if you approach it from explaining why you're doing it, gee, we really want to make sure we're investing our money in the right practice areas. We really want to make sure you're not overworked, and we don't know it unless we see it. I think the why really comes into the time and billing conversation. And once people get used to it, I don't want to say it's easy, but it becomes a habit. And I think people get satisfaction from seeing their own hours. It feels good to know how much time you put in to your profession.
Right. Yeah, just having that clarity
Yeah.
is extremely valuable. Another question we have is you mentioned the payment, past 30 days, lawyers should then, be worried or be more concerned is probably the word used. How can lawyers just avoid that part in general and just get paid promptly?
Go to the house and knock at the door. No, I think, typically, most often when someone provides good service and they bill promptly. So actually the answer to your question is bill really promptly and consistently. Problems start to present themselves when the bill might go out 30 days after it should have gone out. Time for July should go out in August. This is just like an example, not in October or November. And because attorneys tend to be really busy, that happens. And that's when you start to enter that danger zone. So good communication. I know some attorneys who email it to their client with a personal note and say, hey, it was great working with you. Hope you're satisfied with the work. Let me know when you get together for coffee. Here's a copy of the invoice. And I should add, actually, that's really important is if you accept credit cards, or you use one of the systems to accept credit cards and you include that link, you'd be amazed how many people want to charge with a credit card, get miles, and they do it right away to get it out of their mind. So that electronic billing is really helpful to avoid not getting paid.
Got it. And in your experience, typically, lawyers will take a retainer and then bill against it. Is the problem that the retainers aren't refilling, or they're not taking retainers and then they're just chasing bills?
So
you see happening?
Yeah, in that scenario, usually a retainer covers it unless the retainer runs out and someone didn't flag it. And that would be another metric or report. Once a month, the person responsible will look to make sure that the retainer is at a certain amount. And a lot of law firms and attorneys will replenish the retainer before it gets to a certain amount. So they might say, when we hit 2,000, we replenish. So they always have a little bit of a buffer in that retainer account.
Got it. So related to business development, we at LCL, sometimes lawyers will ask, like, what should I do when adding a new practice area? What are like the first steps I should take? So what would you say to that?
Yeah, I'm sure Margaret and I could both speak to this for sure, but I would say that what is critical to the success of building out a new practice area is having a plan in place prior to. So, and I say that more than just saying, oh, there's clearly a need, so let's just start offering this service, which I think can happen very easily because there's need identified. Oh, we definitely have at least a few clients that could use this particular practice area. Yes, but there needs to be a succession, like a plan to succeed in order to launch this practice area and have it actually be successful. And so what my recommendation being, what I've done in the past with other kind of service line offerings is, and the launch of them is looking at it from almost an entire year perspective and breaking it down quarterly. So what do we need to accomplish this first quarter before we even launch the service? Do we need to, this is high level, more marketing, but do we need to generate or create a new web page to talk about this? Do we need to do any form of a press release or putting it out to the public that we're now offering this service? How do we inform our existing clients? Because there could be some low hanging fruit right there of clients already that have a need for this. So my response is that it really is all about the preparation and making sure that the practice area is set up for success in a very planful way, because there's always good intentions, because there's a need identified, but that doesn't mean that it's going to have longevity if a true plan hasn't been put into place to market, brand, and then get out there to talk about that offering.
And do you see, as far as strategy, do you see lawyers, or do you suggest that lawyers build up and master their current practice area before adding a new one? Or do you see, or do you suggest that no matter what stage they're in their current practice area, to still try and add a new one?
I would say that it's always good to have your eye on where there is the opportunity to expand your business and grow your business. So I would say always having the eye out there and the ear out there of what people are talking about, and being forward thinking around technology, innovation, and trends in the industry, because there's always going to be a need for your clients, no matter what your bread and butter services are. I would say though, make sure that you're really good at something. So whatever you're, and I'm not suggesting that you only should have one niche or one area that you're, which some do. And I would say be very strong in your conviction that what you have as your bread and butter, you could literally do with your eyes closed, right? So that it's comfortable. People know that you're good at that. It's your go-to. But even when that's in place, there's always opportunity out there. So keeping the eye forward looking for those innovative opportunities.
Got it. And speaking about looking forward, when you're looking to take the next step and perhaps hire someone, how do you, what is your approach? How do you look at it? Do you wait till you're bursting at the seams to bring someone on, such as like support, legal support staff, or do you take a more investing approach, saying, okay, if I bring this person on, they'll help me take the leap that I want to make?
So you want to speak to that, Margaret?
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting, because what typically does happen is a firm, especially I keep referencing how busy attorneys are, they realize it all of a sudden, like, oops, I need help. And so in that case, what does happen a lot is there's a need and they go out and search to fill that need. What is very advisable, of course, as with everything else, is planning for that potential need in the future, having everything ready to go, the job description, the posting, and then just word of mouth, starting to share that you have this opportunity. And if a great person comes your way and they're wonderful, you may jump sooner than you may fast track a hire that you planned on doing a few months out. And really, the beauty of this is you don't need to hire them right away, but you already got the momentum going for hiring. So when a law firm is considering bringing on support, an attorney, perhaps as a sole practitioner that is scratching their head, gee, is it time to bring on an associate or a paralegal? Just be ready, prepare for that opportunity, start talking about it, and you may be surprised what presents itself. And in terms of hires, if you sketch out the metrics that you need to make it profitable for you, and you know what you're going to pay and what you expect to bill them out at, it makes recruiting a lot easier. And I think that having someone that's running a business, keeping an eye on that for the attorneys is really important, because it's hard for them, I think, sometimes to recognize that in the future. And there's support out there, and it may be internal at your offices also.
As far as bringing on support staff, what are like the top three, not personality traits, but top three skills or things they should be experts in that you'd be looking for?
I'm happy to jump in there really quickly. I guess there's some rules of thumb that should be used when recruiting. I think remembering, and not everyone will agree with this statement, but I do in my experience with hiring, remembering it's not necessarily a negotiation, it's developing a partnership. It's almost like dating and then you're going to get married. So when you're approaching the recruiting process, it needs to be someone you like, someone you respect, and there's always a level of negotiation, but looking at it more of a partnership, what's going to make it's a win for both, I think is really important. And as for traits and skills, I do find, and this isn't always, someone that has experience working in a law firm can be helpful because law firms tend to have certain nuances and demands that are not common in all industries. Law firms or accounting background is helpful. Frankly, someone that's waitressed, that shows someone can multitask. Like, it's interesting, someone's resume, what you can pull out from it. And then during the interview process, a lot of situational questions. Like, how would you handle this? And they can be geared towards things that happen at your particular firms. Conflicting priorities. You get an assignment from two of the biggest partners at your firm. How do you decide which one to manage? Those types of questions, you can really get an understanding of how someone would handle the inevitable challenges that will present themselves. So I do think professional experience does help. A lot of situational questions, and entering it as a partnership, getting to really know the person, putting that time in, even though you're anxious to bring them on. Don't rush the process. Hire slow. I hate to say it. Let someone go fast. I hate to say that because but it is true. Take your time with the hiring.
And I'll add to that. I also think what's an important thing to keep in mind is going back to what your firm's core values and perhaps even your mission statement. So where did your firm start? What was the purpose? What are the common threads that you want to see in every and any employee? Because that's what's going to help this be a successful thing, as Margaret said, for both parties, for the firm hiring and for the new employee. So to have those, I'll say, core values as a part of the process and part of the dialogue from the very onset, or from at least the thought process, you're thinking about, I want someone who's going to be collaborative and a great teammate and communicative. If you know what makes your firm tick and why clients love coming to you, that's what's going to make an employee be a great one, because it'll be the right fit for both parties.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I thank you guys for your time. You guys have been great and sharing all your practice management and business development and human resources expertise with us. So grateful. For everyone who is attending, give us the way to connect with you if anyone on this webinar would like to take that opportunity.
Awesome.
Sure, absolutely. So we both have email addresses. They were on the last slide, but I'll repeat it. So mine is Burke at Kolibri, KOLIBRILAW.com. Casey is C. Blake at Calibri.com. We also actually, please go to our website at www.calibrilaw.com. And then please also feel free to call us 833-330-1633. And we would love to speak to you and be a resource.
And we invite you to, I pulled the slide back up of how to connect with us. Feel free to also check out our social media pages. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever your favorite is. We'd love to see you there because we certainly share a bunch of resources on those as well.
Excellent. Thanks everyone for tuning in again, and stay tuned for our next webinar with busy lawyers. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.